What's going on? It's Matt Polis, and it's time for another episode of MeatSauce for Tuesday, January the 26th, 2021. This is episode number 15. Welcome back. Before I get started today, I just want to take a quick moment here and recognize the year anniversary of the tragic death and sudden death of Kobe Bryant. It's hard to believe that it's already been a year since that happened. I feel like that event is going to be one of those things where you just always remember where you were. I know for me, I was watching the Pro Bowl on TV, and the news broke during the game, and it was just crazy. It was extremely surreal to witness what was happening, and it was just hard to believe. And again, it's just hard to believe that it's already been a year, since his death. LeBron the night before, and it's just crazy. LeBron the night before, passed him on the all-time scoring list to move into third all-time scoring in the NBA. And, Kobe that night, I believe it was like, the tweet has like a timestamp of 10:30 p.m. And Kobe had tweeted out, quote, "Continuing to move the game forward, at King James. Much respect, my brother," end quote. And just to think, 12 hours later, it's like such a tragic loss, man. So I just wanted to take a second to remember him here a year later, what he meant to the game of basketball, really to the sports world in general, his Mamba mentality. So I am excited for today's episode because my new gear that I mentioned a couple weeks ago has finally arrived, and I've gotten it all set up. I've upgraded from using my iPad Air 2 as the device that I was recording on, and I went with the brand new M1 MacBook Air. And let me tell you, this thing is amazing. Just obviously the build quality is quintessential Apple. Very well done. The presentation is fantastic. I haven't used a laptop in about 10 years. I think I was either 19 or 20, really the last time I used a laptop. So it's pretty awesome to be using a MacBook now. They've done an incredible job. And then I'm also using what's called the Focusrite 2i2. It's a USB audio interface. So before, I just had my microphone plugged straight into the iPad, and I was recording straight into the iPad. The audio interface, that now powers the microphone and powers the quality of the sound that then goes into the laptop. So it should hopefully provide a little better sound quality. I'm sure it's going to take me a little bit of time to kind of work on those levels and try to have it all figured out. But the bigger one, too, is that this audio interface has 2 microphone ports, so I'll be able to add a microphone at some point down the road and be able to have a guest on at really any point in time, which is cool. So it's been fun to kind of upgrade the equipment and, start to just slowly build on top of this thing, starting off just trying to get some content out, still trying to just do that, but now starting to build up a little bit more as far as the quality of the equipment, obviously adding a second microphone, so on and so forth. So looking forward to that. It seems like, I don't know about you, but it seems like winter is in full swing right now, wherever you are, especially in the Midwest. I think in Michigan, at least, it feels like it's been 20 or 30 degrees for like the last year. It just feels like it's been cold, and not like overly cold, but just cold enough to be annoying. But it's just constant. We haven't had any random warm days. It's just been cold this whole time. So I will say I have been trying to get myself outside even through the cold. Has not been great, but once you get moving, you really warm up quickly. But whether that's been going for a walk or going downtown in the city that Jess and I live, we're about a mile and a half from our little downtown area. So that's been pretty cool. And the city has actually begun allowing people to walk around the downtown area with alcoholic drinks. One brewery downtown, and then there's restaurants down there also taking part. And you can get cocktails to go, you can get beers to go, and then they have like designated areas that you can walk between, which is basically the big strip of the downtown area is all open to walk. And they have a bunch of heaters lining the street. They have a pavilion where they have like an ice skating rink in the winter. They have a bunch of heaters and fire pits there. So that's been really, really, really cool. It's called the Farmington Syndicate. I'm not really sure where Syndicate comes from, but it's really supposed to be around for the next 4 years just to start and to see how it does. I think it originally came up really to help the small businesses survive the pandemic. But it sounds like, obviously, 4 years, that's going to go beyond the pandemic. And imagining that place in the summer, I think it would be very, very popular, to be able to grab a drink. You don't have to sit down in the restaurant and grab a drink, walk around, enjoy the outside. So I think that's going to be pretty fun. We went a couple times last week. Saturday night was extremely cold, so the heaters and the fire pits and all that definitely helped out. But it's just a neat thing to do. When you really break it down, we're just drinking in the freezing cold, but I don't know, it's something different, something to get us outside, because obviously, as most of us have been, we've all been cooped up for almost a year now, which is so freaking ridiculous. But yeah, Saturday was 21 degrees in the evening. So, but we had our beer blankets on, so that was nice. It's also nice too that they just have you have the ability to be socially distant, right? You're not really close to anybody. You can stay away. You can, obviously you go into the establishment to grab your drink, but you have, a mask on. All the employees are wearing masks. You're in there for maybe 5 minutes at the most, and then you're out. And so it's just they're doing a really good job with it so far, and it seems like it's been pretty popular. So kudos to them. I hope it really helps the businesses down there. Moving on to a sports recap from the weekend. I did go 0 for 2 for the playoffs this weekend, so I think that makes me, what was I last week? I think I was 7-3, so now I'm 7-5. It's not great. I'm thinking a lot of people did, though. The two teams I picked, they just didn't get the job done really at all, and I think really for different reasons. I'll start with the Bucs versus the Packers. I saw a stat at the beginning of that game that Tom Brady, so he's in his 21st season in the NFL, and he's been in the conference championship game 14 times. 14 out of 21. Like that's unreal to me. Just unreal. Must be nice. So I was watching the game, and really the first two drives, the first one by the Bucs and the second one by the Packers, really kind of spoke for the game, except, the Packers didn't climb their way back throughout the game. They hung in there. But the Bucs' first drive just looked so easy. Big third down conversions. They had 2 or 3 of them on that first drive to keep it going, and just moved right down the field. And the Packers just did not look the same. The Bucs defense really deserves a lot of credit. They were swarming all over the ball. Like they were fast, they were aggressive. Actually very similar to the Chiefs defense, and I'll get there in a second, but I will say, the Packers kept battling the whole game. The last attempt, though, into the end zone, so they were right down there ready to score. It was first down, and they just could not get the job done. They couldn't get the ball in. It looked like Rodgers had a couple chances to run it in, but he ended up just throwing it instead. Especially I think it was the third down play. He had quite a bit of open space that he might have had to take a hit, but it could have gotten him into the end zone. So I was kind of surprised to see him not take the risk and run, and he kind of tried to force the ball in instead. And then they decided to go for a field goal on fourth down, instead of trying to punch it in for a touchdown. You're down 8. So, I mean, obviously that's the 2-point conversion is not a guarantee, and even the touchdown's not a guarantee, but you have Aaron Rodgers. You've had 3 chances to get in there, call something different, call a different play. I saw after the game, even Matt LaFleur was already regretting the decision to kick the field goal, because you're still down 5 with only like 2 minutes left. You still need a touchdown. It's not like a field goal is going to tie it. You would still at least need a touchdown. So I don't know. At that point, it's like, that's why you pay Aaron Rodgers what you pay him to do that job right there. And it was interesting in the post-game press conference, Rodgers, has kind of started not drama, but he started the rumors now of like, well, what's he gonna do? Because he's not sure really where he's at future-wise, and not sure what he wants to do. I can't see him retiring. I don't see that. There's been almost basically zero decline in his play. If anything, he's gotten better with age. Some takes I've seen, and I don't disagree. They think that Rodgers, and I think it was Joe Thomas said this, but by what Rodgers said in the post-game interview, that kind of throwing a little bit of shade at the GM, at the ownership, for drafting a quarterback in the first round, the end of the first round there, Jordan Love, and, what could have done had they gotten a Justin Jefferson or somebody else that was available at that time. What if they had gotten somebody like that? That could have been a key player to move them into the Super Bowl and maybe win the Super Bowl. But instead, they took a quarterback who's sitting on the bench, not contributing. And it does make you wonder. So it's interesting. I feel like Aaron Rodgers looks at that and says, if we had that additional piece, we could be having a different conversation right now. He didn't say that, but Joe Thomas kind of hinted at it, that he's might be throwing some shade at the front office there, kind of being cryptic on what his future is and whether he wants to stay in Green Bay or not. I don't see him going anywhere. But, yeah, I mean, I don't know. If Jordan Love ends up being unbelievable after Aaron Rodgers retires, then, I mean, I guess it's whatever. But now, because they lost, the criticism's going to come and the questions are going to come, had they drafted a top-tier talent at a position where the player would have been on the field in that moment, in that game, is the outcome different? Something to think about. But congrats to the Bucs. I mean, it's pretty unbelievable that, aside from Tom Brady, and I'm trying to be objective and like look past Tom Brady and think about and really look past Gronk and look at all the other players that are going to get to experience this. And I'm not thrilled that Antonio Brown is going to go to a Super Bowl, but there's other players on that team that, deserve to go. And not that Tom doesn't deserve to go, but damn, man, the guy's been there how many times? So, but it's pretty unbelievable. He can just move to another team and take that team to the Super Bowl. Now, he has a lot of talent on that team. He has way more weapons than he had in New England. So, kudos to them. It's pretty unbelievable that they're playing at home for the Super Bowl. It's never happened before. So, it's really cool. Moving on to the Bills versus the Chiefs. The Bills started really strong. It was 9-0. Obviously, Hardman botched that punt, had caught it, and then just dropped it, and then the Bills scooped it up and had it there like at the 2-yard line. So, and then they missed the extra point, which didn't matter. But up 9-0, you're like, oh, here we go. Like, that's the way you have to kind of do it. You have to get on top of the Chiefs because they're going to come back regardless. So you got to get up as much as you can on them. But I don't know. I think a lot of the credit for this game, let's take the Chiefs offense out of it because they're obviously great. The defense of the Chiefs, holy cow, they were aggressive all night. Josh Allen was getting just blitzed out of his mind and just really seemed to struggle with that pressure. He you could tell he hasn't had that kind of consistent pressure all season because he couldn't get the ball out. He's scrambling all around. I don't know how many times he was like going out of bounds and he like threw it at the last second to have an incomplete pass as opposed to losing yardage. Receivers were covered downfield. He really didn't look as good as he had all year long, and I almost attribute that to the pressure of the Kansas City Chiefs defense, and Steve Spagnuolo and the calls that he made. It was aggressive. It was very similar to how they treated the Browns too, just fast and coming at you the whole time. And you could tell, Josh Allen was definitely a little bit frazzled, with what to do. So first quarter ends 9-0. The Chiefs then outscore the Bills in the second quarter 21-3, which at that point it's like, okay. And that 3 points for the Bills came at like the last second of the first half. So really it was 21-0 in that second quarter. So Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill. It almost is not even fair. Like, it's crazy to watch them. I was looking up some stats yesterday as I was preparing for this, and Travis Kelce had 13 receptions for 118 yards and 2 touchdowns. As a tight end, how do you defend that? You can't. And then you have Tyreek Hill had 9 receptions for 172 yards. So he averaged 19 yards per catch. It's just insane. And then I wanted to look up Patrick Mahomes. He completed 29 passes. So Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill, between the two of them, combined for 22 of those 29 completed passes. If I'm an opposing defense, I think you have to do something to try and contain those two guys, or at least try and contain one of them, because it's just insane that, only 7 other passes were completed to other guys. I would put pressure on Mahomes, try and double team Hill and Kelce, and then force them to get the ball out to, whoever else, whether it's Edwards-Helaire or Sammy Watkins if he's playing, Robinson, Pringle, any of those guys, and Hardman, force him to get the ball to those guys, but the problem is that he can, and those guys can catch it, and those guys are just as fast. So it's like, it's kind of a lose-lose, but you have to try something different. I'm really curious to see what the Bucs defense brings to the Super Bowl and how they approach trying to slow down Tyreek Hill or Travis Kelce. But I think that's the answer. I watched them against the Browns, and I watched them against the Bills, and it's those two guys. Their offense isn't much more than Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and Tyreek Hill. And Chiefs fans can argue with me all they want about that, but it's obvious. It's extremely obvious. Also, Travis Kelce just always seems to be there and be wide open. Like, every time he throws down the middle of the field, the camera hasn't even caught up to the ball yet, and it's going to Kelce. Just every time. The deep ball's going to Tyreek Hill, and then the pass 20 yards down the field, in the middle of the field, is going to Travis Kelce, or 10 yards, or even 5 yards. It's always going to Kelce in the middle of the field. And then you have... I remember I was watching the game, and I said this out loud at the time, and I did some research to try and just figure it out. The underhand throw that the Chiefs have been doing all year, any game that I've watched, I've seen that play several times from them. Like, I know the throw isn't illegal, but it just doesn't seem like it should be a legal forward pass. He's literally underhanding it. To me, and maybe this is my baseball, pitching mindset, and I guess there's sidearm and there's submarine style pitching in baseball, but it seems like the throw should have to be like a normal throwing motion to go forward. It doesn't seem like you can just toss the ball underhand forward. We always talk about laterals need to go backwards. That seems like a lateral to me, and it seems like it's going forward. So I don't know. It's interesting, and I guess I'm bringing it up because I feel like I haven't seen that from any team as far back as I can remember, and if somebody's listening to this and for sure that you've seen it somewhere else, please tell me, because this is the first time I've seen it used so much, and it's the same play every time. This is like to score a touchdown. They hike the ball, Mahomes hikes it, Travis Kelce comes like right in front of him, or almost on puts him in motion or some sort of movement to get his momentum going, and then Mahomes hikes it and just underhands it to him, and Travis Kelce scores a touchdown. So, I don't know. I'm not obviously, legal play, obviously all of it is allowed, and it's working for them, so of course they're going to keep doing it, but I just don't know about it. It just seems weird to me, and no one seems to question it. Everyone's like, oh yeah, what an amazing play. I was like, well, if it's so amazing, why haven't we seen other people do it? And don't just tell me it's because Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes. I think Andy Reid is Andy Reid. I think that's the bigger part of this story here. I was listening to another podcast about this, and I definitely have felt the same way and had the same thoughts. Like, Patrick Mahomes is obviously unbelievable. His talent is through the roof. He does what really no other person in the league right now can do. But would he have been as successful had he been drafted to, I don't know, the Browns or the Bengals, back when he was drafted? And I don't think he would have been, because he came into a system in the Chiefs that was already established. You had Andy Reid already there. I think a lot has to be given credit to the talent that was around him, and then the talent of your head coach, Andy Reid, that really brought Mahomes along. And then obviously Mahomes, had the God-given talent and the work ethic. So it's like a perfect marriage, basically. But I don't know. I don't think enough credit is given to Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy, the offensive coordinator, because, there's just so much talent around him. Like, it's pretty nice to have the speed of Tyreek Hill and the size of Travis Kelce. I think if you put other quarterbacks in that same position on that team, I think they're just as successful. Maybe not in the dramatic ways and the kind of crazy plays that sometimes happen and so on and so forth, but I think more credit needs to be given to Andy Reid for sure. Like I mentioned earlier, the Chiefs defense, they're playing really well. Fast, aggressive. Tyrann Mathieu is all over the field. You just don't really always see a safety having that kind of impact on a game. And he had an impact on the Browns game, and he had an impact on the Bills game too. So kudos to them. Again, their defense is better than I thought, and really the Bucs defense is better than I thought. So you've got, well, real quick before I get into the Super Bowl, congrats again to the Bills Mafia to get this far when it's been so long. It's an amazing feeling, and I'm sure you guys will be back for years to come. Again, coming from a Browns fan who experienced similar success this season, we can go to sleep at night happy that, our teams feel like they're competitive, feels like they're back, and they can win the big games. And hopefully, each team takes a step forward next year, except for the Bills, because the Browns need to be where they were this year. So moving on to Super Bowl 55, we got obviously the Kansas City Chiefs against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm going to save my predictions for next week's episode just because we have a week off. I want to kind of give it a week to kind of, look into it, form my opinion on what's going to happen, what I think is going to happen. So I'll give my predictions for the game next week. I think number one, I think it has the potential to be a really great game. When they played earlier in the season, the Chiefs came out red hot at the beginning. I think Tyreek Hill had like 200 receiving yards in the first half, but then the Bucs came back, and it was really a closer game than it should have been. So I imagine this one, as both teams are kind of at their climax of the season, I think it should make for a great game. Again, you've got obviously two powerhouse offenses able to score points, but then you have two defenses that are playing really strong, really fast, and really aggressive right now. They're kind of on that same level to me, so I think it's going to be very interesting. And as I mentioned earlier, it's the first time in history that a team is going to play a Super Bowl on their home field. Of course, Tom Brady is the one to do that. Like, somebody else couldn't have that historic record, as if he doesn't already have enough records, But like I said, both defenses are playing really well. Obviously, both offenses are playing lights out. So it really, it may be the most complete matchup of the season, which is what you want to see in the Super Bowl. Obviously you want to ride the teams that are kind of the underdog the whole way and kind of the Cinderella story, so to speak. But when you look at on paper with these two teams, and even what you've seen the last 2 weeks out of these teams, they seem to be the most complete team in the AFC, most complete team in the NFC, and they're going to meet. And that's all you really want in the Super Bowl. So yeah, that's so like I said, my prediction's going to come next week. I think that's going to do it for today's episode. Thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you have a great rest of your week. Stay safe out there, and I'll talk to you next week. Bye, everybody.